Morning. It is Wednesday morning. A little bit behind this week because of the bank holiday, but I've had a little request to talk about packaging. So I originally found my designer on a website called Fiverr, which is amazing for finding actually a whole variety of things that you might need when running a business, especially a candle business. She actually doesn't do this anymore for a job, but she still does it for me, which is quite good. But so what I mean by that is I can't recommend you a person because she's not taking on any more clients. But I recommend going onto Fiverr and typing in the kind of design work you're looking for, whether it be boxes, labels. Usually they'll design the whole lot for you. It is very expensive, very, very, very expensive. At the start, if you're just starting up your business, I would recommend trying to do some sort of design work yourself, whether it be on Canva or if you could swap services with somebody, or if you know anybody that does it, I would recommend doing that. I designed all of my own labels at the start. I actually then found a template on Etsy. There's people that sell on Etsy templates that they've pre-made of labels, and then you can kind of edit in your own details. That's great, because you don't have to pay for any design work. You just pay for that, which is, I think I paid £15. And I still use that to this day. I just fiddle around with the stuff on the labels. Even through rebrands, the labels look completely different, but I'm still using the same template. So that's a great idea. Yeah, just to keep costs down at the start, I would recommend doing that or designing your own somehow. If you already have those skills, you're way ahead and you're going to save so much money. Eventually though, I do think unless you're really good at it, it then becomes certain things. For example, I have some very intricate designs like my Zodiac collection where they have beautiful designs and images on them, and the same with the gift sets and my Christmas candles. I like those to be a bit special. So for things like that, if you've got stuff like that or stuff with drawings and things, I would definitely recommend investing when you can in a designer, because for someone like me, you're not going to do it as well as they can do it, and you want that product to look very professional. And probably what you're going to produce is not going to be as professional looking as what they will produce. It's also a lot easier. You save a lot of time. If you're very, very busy with your business, you're going to want to invest that time into all the jobs that you've got to do, not sat there designing, which does take quite a lot of time. So that's what I found. I've spent thousands on design work over the years, but obviously if you believe in that product, it's gonna earn its money back. As for finding places that you can buy your boxes or packaging from, the actual box, I found the company. I've used a lot of different companies and I've had pros and cons to all of them. The first company I used, actually, they were terrible. They were really, really bad. It was ridiculously expensive, and then when it came, it was in awful condition, and then basically lost all responses and they wouldn't respond. So you have to be very careful, because there's a lot of they're not scams because they send you the product, but they're not great. They're con men. I say men, they could be con women. But there's a lot of that around. When you eventually do find them, you're going to need to know sizing. You're going to need to have the designs to hand. But for me, I actually contact the box company that prints the boxes first, and then I get them to send me I don't know what the proper word for it is called, but the net box, the flat picture of the box, and then my designer designs it straight onto that. There's always loads of issues with it, with different softwares and stuff like that. It is quite a long process, but that is what I have done for all of my design work kind of in the last year and a half. Labels is a lot easier because you just have the designer do the labels and then you send off for the labels wherever you get your labels printed from. Again, Google search finds me most of the things I need to know on there. I haven't taken any recommendations from other people. I've just tried loads of different companies and seen what works for me and what ones I'm happy with. I do often change as well, like over the years, if I can find better pricing somewhere or better like sustainable options, if they're using better materials. So because in January 2023 I went completely plastic free, so the whole everything in the company, the packaging, the jars, the lids, the wicks, because some wicks have plastic on them, although mine weren't, but everything I went plastic free. So that was like a huge thing for labels, because some of the labels have like a plastic film over them. But if you're not going that like direction with your brand, that won't matter. And cost of boxing, so you've got like your packaging boxing, like the nice pretty boxes for your candles or gift sets, which you don't need. I don't actually have boxes for my main collection of candles, although I am hoping to do that at some point for my stockists, just so when it's in the shops it's easier to stack on shelves. But then you've got your actual like postal boxes, which again, eBay, I wouldn't use any of the big brands. I can't think of all their names off the top of my head, but there's a lot of like big brands of packaging, and they're so expensive. And if you ask anyone, and like you always see on the videos like, oh, I really recommend, I can't think of its name, there's this big company, but you can buy boxes on eBay, or like find them on eBay and then find that person's website, because it's usually cheaper, and they're selling boxes for like honestly half the price of these big brands that I can't think of their names. Because I used to think like I can't spend that amount on boxes. So I think my postal boxes, the normal like this kind of size one that fits like one candle in, maybe two at a push, depending obviously on how big your candles are. I think they come in for me at like 40p a box. So, but if you did the bigger brands, you're going to be paying like around £1 a box, but also it depends on how many you're ordering. But I also find they have bigger order quantities, whereas the company that I use, you only have to order 10. So if you were just starting out, that is what I would recommend doing. Okay, so as for the design kind of process, I always draw out like a really rubbish looking design, but just on some paper. I do the rough like sizing, and then I kind of draw how I want it to look. So obviously in a very rubbish way. I wish I still had I might have pictures somewhere of like the before and after, of like my drawing versus like the actual product. If I have, I'll try and insert it in the video because it's quite funny. But so I do like a little drawing, so I'll do like some trees or like some buildings, and then I'll do the writing, and I'll just like literally like stick people and things like that. And then I send that to my designer with a like Pinterest styled document that I put together with all the color schemes, the things that I like the most, the things that are like the most important to me that are in it, and what I kind of want the vibe to be. And yeah, once you've got like a relationship with the designer, it's much easier because they'll kind of get to know like what you want. My designer is like much better with me these days because she knows exactly what I'm wanting it to kind of look like. I send her those, and then she comes back with me for like the first draft, and usually it's like pretty close, but if it's not, sometimes it's not. And then you just have to be honest. Don't ever like be afraid to say as well. Don't ever just take like the first draft and be like, oh well, that's not what I wanted, so, but I don't want to upset them, so I'll just go with it. Don't do that, because you're gonna have to look at that design for a very long time. So yeah, you just go back with changes if you have any changes. Also, you have the option to just completely control the whole thing and just tell them like, I want this there, this there. I prefer not to do that because I don't trust that I'm necessarily making the right decision, because this is something that she is qualified in doing and that she is good at doing. So I like to give like a rough idea, but just kind of let her have her own creative like flair, and do her own thing. I know what I want it to look like at the end, and I can fiddle with that afterwards. But I think if you sometimes give too much instruction on the design, it just comes out looking like ridiculous. So it's better sometimes to just give them like an idea and let them flow with it and see if they get it, and if not, then you can go back and be more specific. So my main kind of takeaway or tips on design is, don't spend all your money at the start on design. Try and get a product that you can easily create cheaply, that you can sell to build up the money before you do it. You don't want to go wasting that big money at the start when you don't really have a lot of money to spend on that kind of thing. Don't be suckered into the big like brands and recommendations from the bigger companies of like, oh, I buy my boxes here. Just don't listen to them, because you're going to waste too much money. And to be honest, I don't actually know why they're using them unless they're getting paid to say it. I wish I could remember the name of that brand. Hold on. Got it. It's Kite. So there's Kite, there's Tiny Box Company, there's all these kinds of ones. I wouldn't bother with them. The brand I use, or the company I use, they're a little bit dodgy. Like sometimes I do have to message and be like, look, I ordered like a week ago, you haven't dispatched it yet. Sometimes it will come and it's not like the right thing, but I have been using them maybe like a year and a half, 2 years, and I've had to do that like 3 or 4 times. So it feels like a bit annoying, but equally, for how often I order boxes, like I probably go through like, I don't know, maybe 500 boxes a month. It's not that bad when you think about the quantity that I'm ordering. I found them on eBay, and then I just went through their website because it was cheaper to order through their website than on their eBay, because obviously they're countering the fees that they have taken from them. So shop around, get a good price for things. Don't settle on the first price. Make sure you like have a look around and see what you can get. For design work, keep it simple at the start, and then you can add and experiment with some more complicated ones and hiring people when you're a bit further through. Even now, like I try and design my own where I can, just because it's easier to test things, because you might pay for the design work, launch the product, and it might not sell. So it's better you keep it as cheap as you can while you work out what your audience likes. And lastly, don't base your designs and your products on something that you've seen someone else doing well. This is something that I kind of noticed when I very first started, like 3.5 years ago. I was like, oh, who was it? It wasn't Yankee Candle. It was one of like the big candle brands. I was like, well, that's selling really well for them, so I'll make that and then people will buy that from me. They won't, because they're buying it from them. I've seen people try and, I'm not saying this in a cocky way, but I've seen certain people that follow me and that I interact with online have tried to kind of reproduce my candles or versions of my candles that then don't sell well for them. And they message me and they'll ask me about the sales of mine, and it's just, I think if you need to move with your own ideas, and you need to move with something that you are passionate about, and something that's as unique as possible, so that people have to come to you for it. So don't go copying other people. Think of something that you like, or something like really unique. Not necessarily that you like, because there's quite a few of my scents that I haven't liked over the years that were bestsellers. So not necessarily that you like, but something very niche. You want something very specific that people can only come to you for. Eventually people will try and copy you on it if it starts selling well, but it's still better to do that, because once you're first on the scene, you've kind of got it. You start building the reviews, you get the traction coming to you, and they're not really going to go elsewhere unless they like severely undercut you, which they probably will try and do. But I still think it's way better to do your own thing than to copy other people. Hope that's been helpful. I need to get on. I am possibly going to try and do another like weekly vlog styled video, but I wanted to get this one out so that people can see the advice for whoever was after it. I am prepping for a market this weekend, and I also have 2 kind of large wholesale orders to get done, so I'm going to be trying to get that done today. Let me know. And also, if you do have any more questions that you want like specific stuff on, like this video on packaging, do let me know in the comments, and I can just sit down and do a conversation like this where I give you all my kind of tips on it. And if I haven't answered a packaging question, just leave it in the comments and I'll give it an answer. So thank you.